normal is actually an era of disruption. Most of us have seen climate change in textbooks. We have seen climate change in movies. Movies like 2020, which are predicted the world will end in 2020. Thankfully, we are still here. But that doesn't mean that the disaster is over. We have read about climate change in textbooks. But who thought that we would be living through climate change today, witnessing firsthand the impact of climate change, how it is impacting us all? कुछ दिन पहले दिल्ली में एक thunderstorm आया. This is not normally the season for rainfall. कुछ दिन पहले I was in the Himalayas. Outside of work, I am a mountaineer. तो मैं काफी समय गुजारता हूँ हिमालय में. और इस बार नंदा देवी पे इतनी बुरी तरीके से बर्फ पड़ रही थी, which is absolutely unprecedented for this time of the year. अश्विनी चौबे जी ने भी बताया कि आपने किस तरीके से जो सैलाब आया था उसको विटनेस किया था, उसको एक्सपीरियंस किया था. तो climate change is no longer a distant threat. We are seeing it in our daily lives. We are seeing it every single day. Climate change is being seen every day. The same thing goes for pandemics. We have read about pandemics. We have read about things like the Black Death, etc. But आज की डेट में all of us have gone through the COVID era. We have seen what a pandemic feels like. Then there is war. We have read in history books about the wars that are being fought. We had seen World War I, World War II. We had seen what had happened in the past. But today, we are seeing the various impacts of wars that are taking place across the world. We have seen the Russia-Ukraine conflict and what it did. Today, we are seeing what is happening in Iran. So the point that I was making was that we had seen climate as a distant threat, we had seen conflict as a distant threat, we had seen pandemics as a distant threat, yet we have lived through all of them today. So this is an era of structured disorder, and this is actually the new normal. Now, when we talk about climate, climate is something which has been termed even by the United Nations as a threat multiplier. It is a threat multiplier because its impacts cut across everything else, not just global warming, not just energy. Air quality can be attributable to emissions. Emissions lead to climate change, but air quality also worsens people's health. So climate is a health challenge. A few years ago in Russia, the permafrost melted because of extreme heat, and what was exposed was anthrax, which led to the deaths of people. When you have flooding events, waterborne diseases grow, they basically go up. Flooding events actually lead to fight over resources. Fight over resources lead to conflicts. That's what we are seeing in many countries of Africa today. So the point is that climate change is a threat multiplier. We sit in 2026 today. In the last 50 years, 2 million people have lost their lives as a direct result of the impacts of climate change across the world. By 2050, we will be witnessing approximately 14 million people who will lose their lives because of the impacts of climate change, and this is a very conservative estimate. So you're seeing in the past 50 years, we've had 2 million people die, and almost 7x the number of people will die in just 2x the number of years. That is the magnitude of climate. But when we look at countries like India, when we look at emerging economies, including India, we have to understand three things. First, we are the lowest emitters when it comes to per capita, right? Our per capita emissions are almost 6 to 7 times less than that of the United States of America, just as an example, right? So we are the lowest per capita emitters, yet all emerging economies suffer the highest impacts of climate change. We are the most vulnerable population insofar as climate change is concerned. But what we also have, so lowest per emitters, highest vulnerability, but what we also have is the greatest opportunity to decarbonize, the greatest opportunity to industrialize without the need to carbonize. Precisely because we are still developing, industrialization is still happening, urbanization is still happening, and today we have the kinds of technologies that the world did not have during the industrial revolution that preceded us. Today we have everything from wind energy to green hydrogen, you have everything from ethanol to green ammonia, which the world did not have back in the day. And most importantly, what India has an ambition, we really want to deliver, actually. And every challenge till date has been an opportunity. We are talking about circular economy. Right now, we are talking about what circular economy would look like in an era of disruption, in an era of war. You see, every disruption has led to something positive. Every challenge is an opportunity. COVID gave that opportunity to drive digitization at a massive scale in India. UPI had already existed before that, but that was the real example when digitization took off en masse. Back at that time, I was in Niti Aayog and I had the ability to see firsthand the impacts of those digitization when I was the OSD to the CEO of Niti Aayog during that time. Because many amazing things were built during that time. Today, many of you work in the logistics sector. You might have seen something known as ULIP, Unified Logistics Integrated Platform. ULIP was actually born in Niti Aayog when Honorable Prime Minister Sir had told Niti Aayog that we should basically use the COVID crisis as an opportunity to drive digitization. So work with the private sector and find some cutting-edge solutions. So ULIP was born out of that. There was the COVID portals, which was born during that crisis. But this current crisis, I think, is an opportunity for us to be self-sufficient in energy and to drive a more sort of solid format, a solid version of what we think of circular economy. And I think this essentially has 5 pillars. The first, of course, is the opportunity to add renewable energy at scale. We are already doing extremely well. We are way ahead of the curve when it comes to our net zero ambitions. We are doing an extremely great job, but this allows us the opportunity to add even more energy. But here is the caveat, that when we are talking about self-sufficiency, when we are talking about self-reliance, it is not merely about the oil that we are importing. It is also about the need to store the energy that we are generating. Today, it might be very easy to say that, we can have 60% of our energy, for instance, coming from solar, but at the end of the day, solar will still go away at night. What we need is round-the-clock carbon-free energy. Until and unless we get round-the-clock carbon-free energy, which is RTC CFE, no matter what sources we consume during the day, at night our power will still be coming from fossil fuels, from oil, and 85% of that dependency will be on other countries that supply that oil to us, for instance. So that is something that we need to change. So storage is very important, and battery storage is definitely an answer. But again, here's the thing. When we are talking about self-sufficiency, I think we also know that insofar as batteries are concerned, we are also exposing ourselves to a single point of failure. Most of the raw materials for a battery, we all know it all comes from a particular country. And so if that country were to stop the exports, India will again suffer. So the answer actually lies in technologies such as gravity energy storage solutions, water as a solution. You pump water uphill to an upper reservoir, you release it at night. So you pump it when the renewable energy is in excess, and then you release it at night. And so at night, you basically get firm power. So I think that is the second thing. The third is the need for accelerating the biofuel revolution in India. Every challenge is an opportunity. The challenge of stubble burning itself is an opportunity to use that stubble to generate ethanol, which will then blend. It will reduce your oil import bill, but it will also allow India to become a champion of sustainable aviation fuels, for instance. I believe that nothing in today's era is possible without digitization. We can talk about circular economy, we can talk about energy, but right from channeling the climate finance flows, where should climate finance flows reach where they're most efficient, to the technologies that will be used for those clean energy technologies. How can you make electrolyzers more efficient, for instance? It all depends on technology. It all depends in the future on AI. And what India has given to the world is a model which we have so far applied in payments, digital public infrastructure. But I believe that digital public infrastructure for clean energy, for circular economy, is one of the biggest opportunities, because when all of the data is out there in the public domain, finances, electrolyzer design, location of charging stations, the albedo effect on rooftops, you can use it to figure out not just what the solar potential of a rooftop is, but equally the extreme heat and how to work around that. When thousands of data points are out in the public domain, you will be able to create solutions which are actually truly very effective. The future lies in creating a systems design blueprint around Atmanirbhar Bharat, and the 5 C's of that blueprint should be convergence. We want to see what we can do, what the government wants to do, where the convergence lies. Taking it forward, we want to collaborate with the government. That's the second C. You want to build collaborative solutions with the government. The third is to generate credibility. Credibility not just between you and the government, but develop credible solutions which the world looks forward to, not just India, and allow India to become an export hub. The fourth C is competition. We've realized in India that India is a cooperative federalism, but competitive federalism will allow states to compete with each other to do even better. The same thing goes for the private sector as well. And finally, circularity. Circularity not just in terms of the circular economy, but circularity in terms of the entire process that goes behind making a country energy efficient, that makes a country be Atmanirbhar, and the Namo Bharat project. I love the tagline of Namo Bharat, which is Gati se Pragati, progress through speed. And I believe that is the future of India. Thank you very much.